everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. My name is Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And today I wanted to show you how I made the really pretty card featuring the Sweetest Christmas bundle, which is one of the bundles. Actually, I think it's called Sweet Candy Canes, and it's part of the Sweetest Christmas Suite, which actually contains two bundles, designer series paper, ribbon, embellishments, and oh my gosh, it's an amazing suite, and it's probably one of my favorite suites in the the July to December mini catalog. So I thought I'd show you how to make this card. And one of the really cool things about these candy canes on my card is that they are glossy and they look just like a candy cane. They have that really shiny finish. And I'm going to show you how you do that using clear embossing powder. So let me switch over to my desktop and we will get started. So you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. And so I hope that as you're watching this YouTube video, you will take the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love for you to be notified and watch my videos when I post or when I go live. All right, so this is the card that I shared. Isn't it fun? I just love this suite of products, and in particular the Sweet Candy Canes. So I've used the dies for the Sweet Candy Canes and the stamps. These bows are part of the Christmas banners, which is the other bundle from this suite. And so I just cut a couple of bows out from Garden Green. I've used, this is the second largest circle from the Stylish Shapes circles, and then this is one of the textural elements that is actually part of the boughs of holly. These really fun little jingle bells I've used, just attached one, and some ribbon, and then the seasonal sequence. And I just realized, oh no, I do have it. I was thinking I missed pulling my ribbon out, but I've got it all here. All right, so this is the suite, or the card, and then on the inside I just stamped a candy cane. So let me show you how I put this card together. So here's this Sweet Candy Canes. So I've used just one of the candy canes, and I've stamped it. And I'm used the Sweet, or the Merry and Bright, and then I'm going to use this one on the inside. I didn't use it on the other one. Yet there are dies with this, so there is fun that there are two candy cane dies, both going in opposite directions. This fun tag die that cuts holes. So these cut holes, and if you've got a candy cane, you can cut this out and actually put the candy cane through these holes. It creates a really fun tag on a candy cane. Some of the dies to cut this image out, and then the last die, which is my absolute favorite, is this stripe, diagonal stripe die, and I've already gone ahead and cut this out of basic white. So you get all of these, pull all these pieces out, which you can save and use if you want. I'm not going to today. Anyway, so it cuts this really fun diagonal stripes out. You can actually coordinate this with some of the designer series paper that is in the suite, and that's fun. Okay, so that's the dies that are part of this suite. Just put this back so I don't lose it. All right, and I think I've got all the stamps out. Yes, I do. Okay, the other one, the other set of dies that I've used are part of the Christmas banners dies, and I have gone ahead and cut out this fun bow just a couple of times in Garden Green. Again, this is part of the Christmas banners dies that are part of the same suite. Okay, so let me pull my paper trimmer. I'm using Sweet Sorbet, Basic White, and Garden Green. And so this is a piece of Sweet Sorbet cardstock that is cut 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm just going to score it. I always use my paper trimmer to score my paper. It just gives a much better score line than if you try and fold it in half. So this is the side I score on, and as always I say fold into the mountain or the raised line, which is the opposite side, and I've got my bone folder. So just fold on that score line, use your bone folder just to give it a really good crease. I went ahead and cut out the piece of designer series paper. So it's in a bunch of colors: real red, garden green, pool party, and sweet sorbet. So I've got a piece that is sweet sorbet, and this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I cut a piece of basic white that was also 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I went ahead and die cut this with that fun. Trying to make sure I get these out without tearing it. Looks like this one didn't. I have a bit of a warped cutting plate. So if your cutting plates are warped like they get after you use them a lot, sometimes that will make your dies not cut quite right because it isn't laying completely flat and it doesn't get the right amount of pressure on it. So if you find that your dies aren't cutting consistently, check that out. Sometimes there are issues with the dies, not very often, and if there is, and it's a Stampin' Up! Die, reach out to your demonstrator. Call me if I ordered it. You ordered it through me, and we'll make sure that you we contact Stampin' Up! For you. So they're really good if you do have issues with dies. All right, I'm just cutting these out. Again, mine is it cuts perfectly fine, but like I said, I really need to replace my cutting plates that are just warped. There we go. All right, so I've got my piece, and as I said, this die cut actually coordinates with I don't have it handy, a couple of the designer series paper in the suite, and so it will actually the designer series paper has stripes going the same direction. So I'm just going to take a little bit of liquid glue and just put a little bit of liquid glue. That was a big bubble that came out. Just on the wide stripes, not very much because I don't want it to kind of all splodge out. And then I'm just going to put a little bit kind of on the edge. And we will now, hopefully, let's grab my silicone mat so I don't get this glue all over the place. And so I'm just going to take and adhere my diagonal stripe piece to my designer series paper piece. Press down where I had glue, which was on the wide stripes. Let's get back into the picture. There we go. And now this piece is going to adhere to the card base. So I'm using liquid glue. You can use whatever your favorite adhesive is. And in fact, if you've got the the adhesive sheets, they work really well if you use that for these intricate dies. So if I had put a little bit of the silicone, adhesive sheets behind my basic white, it would have been all ready to adhere, but the liquid glue didn't do too badly. Okay, so there's my card base. Isn't that fun? Now, I'm going to take and put, this is the Stylish Shapes circles. This is the second largest of the Stylish Shapes. And I'm just going to take and put this right there on the left-hand side, just about 3/4 of an inch or an inch from that left-hand side. Okay, now let's get to the fun bit. Let's start and I'm going to switch these over. I only need 1 candy cane. I was kind of thinking I needed 2, but let's get the one. I want to go, let's use this one that curls to the right. So I'm going to stamp this in Sweet Sorbet. And I realize I need my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and of course I don't have it right handy, so I'm going to have to grab it. So I'm going to just stamp my candy cane in Sweet Sorbet. And you could either cut this out, which I'm going to do. Actually, yeah, cut this out, or you can do the embossing. But let me grab my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. go. Should have had this handy. Okay, let's see if I got a plate that wasn't quite so warped. All right, so we're going to actually, and I missed a plate. We need plate number 2 as well. Let's get that underneath. Get the sandwich going right, and then it'll cut nicely. All right, and now I need the candy cane. Crash. There we go. That was the plate falling to the ground. Now I like to use Post-it note or Post-it note tape. So I get this from Amazon, or washi tape, whatever you have, just to adhere your die on, especially when you're doing a stamped image. I bring this over a little bit so you can see. I've just got this piece of, this is the Post-it note tape that I get. But you can use Post-it note or washi tape. It just holds your die in place, especially if you're going to be stamping or die cutting a stamped image. All right, run this through and we'll cut this out. Put this down. And now this can save your bits because you can reuse those. And now you've got this really fun candy cane, which is really pretty all in itself. It's nicely stamped in sweet sorbet, but let's make it glossy and shiny like a real candy cane is. So use your mat, your silicone mat. I've got some Versamark. So I'm just going to take and ink up apply Versamark all over the entire image, the stamped image. And it doesn't matter if it goes over the edge, the whole thing is going to be shiny. So the next thing, I've got my heat tool. I'm using clear embossing powder. And so I always put my embossing powder in a plastic container because I am the world's messiest embosser. And so I like to have it here, but you can get the embossing kit, which contains the embossing buddy, a brush, these amazing tweezers, and then this tray that you can dump or put the underneath when you're sprinkling your embossing powder over your image. I didn't use my embossing buddy on this one, but I typically always use it because I was covering the entire thing with the Versamark. So now let's just pick this up. I'm just gonna grab it with the tweezers, hold it, and I use a little plastic spoon. And I'm going to cover the whole thing with embossing powder. So it's no longer, it's kind of got a really dull finish. I'm going to get that out of the way. And now just take your heat tool. Now I'm going to hold this down. This goes on high, so there are 2 settings. I'm going to hold this down with the point of my take your pick tool. And hopefully that won't be too loud. Hold it in one spot until you see that the embossing powder starts to melt. And you will see it start to go from this kind of dull matte finish to a shiny finish. And what this clear embossing powder will do is turn your stamped image into this really glossy, shiny, good enough to eat candy cane. So if you can see that, I think you can even see some of the shininess on the camera. All right, there we go. I think I missed a spot there. If you notice that part of your image is not shiny, it's still kind of dull, it means that it's kind of not cooked, fully cooked. So take your heat tool and just put it back over until you get the shininess throughout. So I'm going to just wait until this is kind of dry. There we go. So I don't know if you can see, there we go. You can kind of see how shiny it is once you use this clear embossing powder over top of it. It just really makes it a fun image. Okay, so I've got this. We're going to put that on like that. I went ahead, as I said, I cut out 2 of the boughs from garden green. This is just a scrap of garden green. And I'm just going to poke out these bits. So we're going to put these behind. So they're going to go just behind on each side. I'm going to use a glue dot. So those are the first things that can be put down. So this is an old package of glue dots still, because the new glue dots have the dot on the top as opposed to on this other side of the roll. So I'm just going to put these kind of there. And then I should move this one on to a little bit in like that. And then this, I'm just going to put some liquid glue. You could pop this up if you want, but I've got a fair amount of texture, and I'm just going to put glue kind of in the middle. I just need enough to hold. My glue is running out. All right, there we go, just like that. So it's just kind of enough to hold like that. Now, these are the textural elements. And as I said, they're wooden elements. You get, I think there's 20 in a package. And they are part of the Boughs of Holly suite. So I'm just going to use a glue dot on that. You have to be a little careful with these. If you pull too hard, the wood will break. So you don't want to pull too hard. All right, and then the last thing we're going to do, a piece of scrap of basic white. We're going to stamp the Merry and Bright using, I guess this isn't the last thing we're going to do. Got a little bit more. Okay, we're going to stamp the Merry and Bright sentiment in Sweet Sorbet. And I'm going to fussy cut that using my paper snips. I'm going to cut around it and get off my big piece. So I'm just going to take and fussy cut. Now you could use a die or a punch, or you could just cut a rectangle out and stamp. If you follow me, you kind of know that I often tend to fussy cut my sentiments. And this time I'm going kind of around the word, or the letters in the word, just to give it a little bit of extra shape to it. And as always, when you're fussy cutting, you want to be steering the paper and not steering the scissors. It just will make fussy cutting so much easier. And then this is going to go across like this. Now I'm going to use a little bit of dimensional on here and a little bit of a glue dot or liquid glue, because I've kind of got different heights that I need to adhere this over. So this wooden piece is quite high up. So I'm going to put dimensional on each end and then a glue dot in the middle to hold this. And I think I need one of the mini dimensionals on this one end. So sometimes you kind of have to play around to get the right combination of adhesives. And then let's use a glue dot. I lost my glue dots for a minute there. Okay, so we'll put a glue dot kind of in the middle. So I've got a mini dimensional, a glue dot, and then a big dimensional, and that will hold this in place like that. Okay, so then the 2 more things on our card. I've got a piece. This is the garden green ribbon. So this ribbon comes with it. It's a combo pack of garden green and real red. So I'm just going to take and tie. This is going to be a little bow. So I'm just tying a little bow with my garden green. Like I said, little bow. So you can kind of fuss with it, get the tails going in the direction you want. Like that. There. And just take this has got twisted here, so let's try and untwist it. There we go. Okay. I find if I don't cut it off of the ribbon of the roll, you will use less ribbon. that makes sense. So I try and tie my bows while it's still attached to one end of the spool of ribbon. All right, so I'm going to put this just on the bottom of the candy cane. And then I'm going to take, this is the Baker's Twine Essential Pack. So you get 5 different rolls. I'm going to use the basic white one. So you get it in very vanilla, black, gray granite, crumb cake, and white. And then these fun are the flat jingle bell trinkets. So little tiny jingle bells. So I'm going to attach one to my twine. Again, I'm going to tie, this one I'm going to cut off because I just find it easier. I'm going to tie a bow. I'm going to tie a single knot, and then I'm going to tie a little bow on top of it. And we will fuss with the size of this because it's way too big. I just want this to be quite a little tiny bow on top of my jingle bell trinket. Sometimes it's hard to tie these little tiny, there we go, tiny bows. Okay, oops. And I'm going to use a glue dot. I'll trim these tails in just a minute. I'm going to use a glue dot to adhere this on. So a glue dot fits perfectly on the back of that jingle bell trinket. And I'm going to put this just right underneath the ribbon. So it kind of looks like it's all part of the ribbon. And then just take and trim my twine tails like that. So these jingle bell trinkets are fun. They come, there's 20 in a package, and they're kind of in a brassy finish. They're really pretty. Okay, there's my card. The last thing we want to put on the front of the card is these are the seasonal sequins. They're adhesive back sequins. They come in green, gold, kind of an iridescent white, and sweet sorbet. I'm using the green on my card because I just thought this would show up really nicely on my white. And so I've got one of the large, one of the small, and then we'll put a small. I always tend to go with odd numbers of adhesives or embellishments on my cards. All right, so there's the front of my card. Isn't that fun? And that glossy, glossy candy cane. That's the word I was trying to think of. All right, so let's do some stamping on the inside of my card. So let's stamp a candy cane in Sweet Sorbet. So I'm just going to put the candy cane kind of right over here on the edge. And then I did find these. This says, wishing you lots of love, joy, and happiness this Christmas season and always. Now, this is a rubber stamp, and so it's harder to see how straight it's going to be. So I always test when I'm stamping a rubber stamp, I always test it on my grid paper just to make sure that I can kind of get it straight. And because your label doesn't always go on exactly. So I'm just going to just tilt this up a little bit, and hopefully it's not too bad. Not quite straight, but it's not too bad. So just test it on your grid paper to make sure that you can get your sentiment straight. There we go. Almost at the end of that ball of glue. And then this will go on the inside of the card. Isn't that pretty? I just love Sweet Sorbet. It's just such a nice color. I love Poppy Parade, so therefore Sweet Sorbet is also high on my list. So there we go. There's the card and just this really fun glossy candy cane on it. So if you're watching the video and you have questions, the instructions, the written instructions, supply list, and measurements for this card are on my video. And so you will be able to grab them from the video. There is a link to a download of the tutorial, as well as it is on the blog post. And if you've missed anything as I've gone through on the video, hop over to my blog at stampingwithmelva.com, and the link to the blog post will be underneath this video so that you can hop right out there. If you have questions, Please leave a comment either on the video or on my blog, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have if you go to make this card and it's not making sense to you. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Again, I hope that you'll take the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you'll be notified when I go live again. Thanks again. Happy stamping. Bye.